All right, Coach, been a few weeks since you've been in here. A lot happening to you guys. You had a lot of ups and just a few downs there last week. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Well, I'm not sure where we left off, but I know that we left off right before we had the rains, and
Right.
so we had about 8 days where we weren't able to get some games in, and you know, when you're not able to get live batting practice and see live pitching, it always affects you a little bit. We've seen enough. You play a 56 game schedule, you should get enough experience that, to have a little bump in there and a little gap in there sometimes doesn't affect you a lot, but it should affect you some. We had that right before going into the Eastern Series. And Eastern, at the beginning of the year, is kind of rated one of the top teams in our conference. We played them in the fall, beat them in a 4-2 scrimmage. Felt really good that we lined up well with them. And they are a very good ball club, and we knew they had a great pitching staff. And so going in against a ball club that has a great pitching staff, not having the ABs, I think, was a little bit of a factor. That ABs, and it's not even that you don't have at bats, you don't have time taking batting practice on the field where you can work on your stuff and keep your tempo and rhythm and your eyes and all the different things that it takes to be a great hitter. And so we go to their place on a Friday, we split, we play a really good game against their ace and have a chance to beat them late and tie it in the seventh and lose it in the eighth because we walk a guy, which is beginning to be something that we're seeing too much of.
So closing's becoming an issue then?
It's not closing, it's the middle relief. It's those bridge guys I talked about last time. They were doing really well. And you do go through streaks. We don't have, we have a good pitching staff. We don't have a dominant pitching staff.
Right.
I mean, our starters are very good, and they'll keep us in ball games. And our middle relievers are solid. But they're not, they're not bringing in 91 out of the bullpen. We're bringing in guys that have to pitch and hit spots and not make mistakes, and they have to play defense. And there's been some times this year that's cost us because that we don't have really a dominant middle relief guy. And we were closing Hugo.
Mm-hmm.
And when we had Hugo closing, yes, we had a dominant closer. But we've had to move him to a starter because of failures in other groups. And the guys that failed get put into that role. And now you're kind of going, well, we'll try to build these guys back. So
Right.
We go down to Eastern, we split, we lose a 4-3 ball game late. Win a 10-7 ball game. Felt really good about it, and I don't know that they really swung the bat real well. Some of it was Adam Mott threw exceptionally well, and Hugo Lalone threw exceptionally well.
Did Hugo close that second game?
No, he started the first game and didn't get the loss, but he got a no decision. But he was,
Right.
He really pitched well. And then we come home, we're thinking we got Danny Colon going, and Evan Mott, who's kind of, wasn't real good early, is coming on late. His last two starts have been very good. And we're thinking, we're in a great position to sweep at home, or against Eastern and Connors and Seminole, you'd like to win the series. You'd like to win 3 out of 4. That's kind of your goal, And if you can't do that, you definitely want to split. You definitely don't want to be on the bottom of it, end of it. And that's what we did last year. Was we were able to sweep those series. That's why we won the conference last year. So we open up against Seminole and don't even get a split. We lose 3 out of 4, and then we sweep Baptist, and then we get 3 out of 4 against Rose, and then you get into Eastern, and they get us 3 out of 4, and you're coming home after a split at their place, and you're feeling pretty good about your club because you hadn't played in 8 days. They went out and really performed well. You're going, okay, we didn't miss much there. And Danny went out and wasn't very good early. And he goes out and gives up 5 runs in the first inning of a 7-inning ball game, and that's hard to overcome, especially when you're facing a staff like Eastern. This is probably one of the best pitching staffs. It's definitely the best pitching staff overall in our league. Maybe one of the best pitching staffs in the Midwest in junior college baseball overall as a group. That's a once in a lifetime. Back in 2004, we had that. We had 3 Division I aces on our staff, and we had plenty of relief, and we're good this year. And we thought, and I talked about that early on, that this group may develop into that type of group, but it really hasn't. It doesn't mean we can't win, doesn't mean we can't go be successful. It means that we have to do a little better than what we're doing.
Right.
Eastern's already there. They've really got a good group, and they swing the bat adequately, and they play good defense. And we give up 5 in the first, and Danny was just not very sharp. And we had
Was he control issues? Is that his
No,
problem?
he was throwing it hard as he's thrown all year. He's consistently 86, 87, which is where he usually tops at, but he was sitting at 86, 87, and just threw the ball down the middle.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes, he's been so good for so long that I think he just kind of went out there and thought, I'm just going to try to. He kind of eases into his game. He always goes out and is always solid early, but I think he kind of thought he'd just throw some get-ahead fastballs and left some stuff in the middle, and their kids punished him for it. And the kid that struck out 6 times the day before hit a 3-run home run in the first inning on him.
Right.
And Oppo, and then another kid hit a home run 2-3 batters later, and you're going, well, it may not be our day, but we go out and we kind of settle down, and then we turn around with 2 outs in the second inning and give up 2 more. And you're thinking, now we're down 7-0 to a really good pitching staff. It's going to be really hard to overcome that. And we battled pretty hard. Ended up getting beat 10-4. Gave up some runs late in that ball game. Some runs late in the ball game that made it look worse than it really was. I mean, we were never really in the ball game.
Mm-hmm.
From the very beginning. The first inning, 5 and the 7, you're gonna lose most of those. So we felt, okay, we're gonna really work hard, talk to them in between the games about getting the split, and we're okay with that right now. It's late in the year. We want to be playing well more than we're going to be concerned about winning or losing games. We want to be really concerned about, are we playing well right now going into a regional? That's going to impact it more, because you can play really well and lose.
Right. But you ended up losing 3.
And we ended up losing 2 that day.
2 that day?
Yeah, we ended up getting swept at home, which is always embarrassing to get swept at home. And you guys, we get beat 9-4 in the second one. We went, and not in one inning. We just didn't pitch very well out of the bullpen, and we ended up giving up runs late, and they got ahead of us. We were down 5-4 in the sixth, and we thought, well, we're right there, right where we want to be. Where we score a lot of our runs between the 4th and the 7th inning in a 9-inning ball game, and their kids settled down, and they brought in a reliever in the 7th. That's really their closer, and he pitched him for 3 innings, and he struck out 5 and just absolutely shut us out. And we gave up a 2-run home run late that made it a little bit worse than what it really was, and felt like, if we hadn't given that up, we might have been able to attack that guy. It's a lot easier to pitch with a 4 or 5-run leads for some guys.
Right.
Definitely for him. His stuff was really good, and they don't have any bad arms going to the mound. They've done a really good job with their group, and disappointed that we couldn't have got the split. If we got the split, we'd be sitting at 34 and 14 and feel really good. People don't know the difference between 34 and 14 and 33 and 15. I mean, it is just 2 games, but momentum and how you guys feel about themselves. We also played them going into our finals.
Right.
Some of that's always a factor. The guys are going into finals, and you want them to do well in their finals, so you focus a little bit on that more sometimes than you do the games. And I don't know that this group necessarily did that, but I felt like it was a little bit of a concern for all of them, and they were all worried about their finals, and were excited about getting them done and getting them behind them. And so that a lot of things might have contributed to that, other than just the fact that Eastern was a very good ball club.
Yeah. And where do you go now?
We're going to play today against Coffeyville is in a midweek game. It was, I don't know how advisable it would be to play it right now, but it was on a schedule, and we're 3 games short, and this late. Honestly, we probably just need to get that bats. We need some guys to see some pitchers, and going into Connors. We go to Connors on Friday and for a doubleheader, and then Connors at home on Saturday, and that'll be the end of our conference and regular season schedule, and the following Thursday we'll start a regional.
Are you going to be able to get all of your makeups in?
No, we're not going to try.
No.
No, we're not going to try. I mean, you get 53 games out of 56, you feel pretty good about that. And there's no way, you're not going to try to squeeze them in just for the sake of squeezing them in. We're going to get 5 more games to prepare for a regional. That's plenty.
Yeah. You mentioned all the rain we've had in the last few weeks. How's your field now?
The field's in good shape, probably the best shape it's ever been in. We were a little wet today. We were worried we may not be able to get today's game in, but we got out there and spiked it around noon and just before noon, and it's going to clean up fine. It's going to be one of those, I've used this phrase before, Johnny All-Staff days. Everybody that we have is probably going to throw an inning or 2, middle relievers, and maybe a couple of the guys that will start on Saturday might throw an inning. That's kind of their bullpen going into that series. So,
what kind of team's Coffeyville?
They've beaten Connors twice. The record's not very good, and we played them at their place and beat them 5-2. They're fully capable of beating you if you don't play well.
Yeah. And who's your starters today?
I don't have any idea.
Not yet.
I think we're going to start Stewart, but he'll last 1 or 2 innings, and so technically who you start doesn't really matter. You're going to pitch 5 guys in 9 innings, maybe 6 guys. So.
All right, Coach. Good luck to you.
I appreciate it.